Welcome to The Cleaning, a podcast about Apple TV Plus's new show, Silo, although not so new now, Bubba. Speaking of Bubba, here he is. He's with me. Someone who is happily, heavily sedated, neglecting his duties and dishonoring the badge. Bubba, how the heck are you? I'm so happy to be here. Catfish. Talk to me, Bubba.
Catfish, I can't wait to talk about Season 1, Episode 7, The Flamekeepers. Bernard seeks Juliette's cooperation as he grows increasingly concerned about the silo security. Plus, Juliette asks her father for a favor.
Whew. Oh, boy. Dang.
Episode 7 of Season 1. I'm going to go ahead and rate it. Let's do it.
Yeah, get right to it, Bubba.
I'm giving this 8 double C's out of 10.
Double C's, of course. What? Wait, double C's?
Double C's, when you're talking about Silo, talks about cliffhanger credit. For so long, I've been busting this show about Juliette climbs to the end of a rope.
Yep.
As a cliffhanger, then climbs back up the rope. Juliette finds a file. And
what happens?
The file doesn't help her. I've been busting this show about weak cliffhangers. Last week's reveal of the cameras, incredible. This week's cliffhanger, where is she? Great cliffhangers. This is what this show should be. I said they got to ramp up. You got to force viewers to click next episode. If this show can get viewers all the way to episode 6 and 7, they're going to be clicking next episode fast. You wouldn't even believe it. Conspiracy thriller vibes throughout. Incredible. Tense. The action, not necessarily action of like, hey, here's a fight scene, but the action of, okay, all these things are brewing, is building. I loved it. 2 great confrontations. Juliette busting her father for working with them. Well, I was just following orders. Not cool, Dr. Nichols. Then Billings rightfully calling out Juliette and saying, you're a terrible sheriff. You dishonor the badge. Great. The show has told us for weeks, the silo's on edge. The silo's on edge. And I'm like, well, we haven't really seen it. This week, it may have been a drunken bar fight, but we're seeing it. The silo is on edge.
Okay.
8 out of 10. So excited. Only 8 out of 10. Those 2 missing points are why isn't a perfect show for me?
Tell me.
Our protagonist, Juliette, is a bull in a china shop. Now, sometimes it is fun to watch a bull destroy a china shop. But sometimes if you want to get to your goal, you need to navigate around the china and get out of the shop.
Well,
she badgers people. She bullies people. Juliette, I love in the book. Juliette in the book, and I always say I don't like talking about the book, and I keep doing it. In the book, Juliette has all these traits. She's confident. She's a woman of few words. She's meticulous, but she approaches problems like she would approach a piece of mechanical item that needed to be fixed, analytically, smartly. Her justice for George anger has pushed her into a bull in a china shop. We'll talk about this more in a bit, but I wish she was smarter in some of these scenarios than she is. 8 out of 10, that's for me. What is your rating out of 10 for The Flamekeepers?
I'm going to have to find something else to talk about next week because we talked about Juliette last week, and I'm going to talk about her right now. Next week, this is my last time talking about her. Bubba, I'm going to give this episode 6.5 double A's out of 10.
Ooh, double A's?
Yeah, and that is when you have someone who's a bull in a china shop going against all these powerful people. And what does that lead to in my mind?
What?
Apple anticipation. I can't wait for the apples for Juliette. They're coming. Whoa. We got a lot of pushback on this because we both complained last week. We got great feedback.
Yes. From a
listener, Piotr Kropotkin, who said, we're going to read his full later, but I had to read this part of it so I could respond to it and tell you why this episode was ranked low for me, despite the fact of all these incredible things happening. Piotr said, you constantly complain that there is no classic hero who is all good and perfect. Now, I want to make this clear. I do not need our protagonist to be someone perfect. I love flawed characters, horrible characters, mean characters, but we called our first podcast, which was our Game of Thrones podcast, the Joffrey of podcasts, because we loved how deliciously evil Joffrey was. We loved Joffrey. I have rooted in my TV watching career for drug dealers, serial killers, and straight up a-holes. Okay.
And that's just the NBC Nightly News.
Damn you, George Stephanopoulos. I just feel like I need some reason to be on Juliette's side, to sympathize with her, to empathize with her, to want her to succeed in what she's doing, to cheer for her. But none of that is happening for me. And this is why the show is really bothering me, despite all of the good things that are happening in it.
Now, if you love Juliette, do not unsubscribe in anger. No, you know what? Hey, I don't want to tell you what to do. Do what you want to do, but we want you to stay. We want you to give us your feedback on why you love her. We can be convinced. The show can convince us to love Juliette. There are just moments in this that are tough for us. And we get feedback from other listeners who say they're like this. But once again, if you love Juliette, if you want her to succeed in her mission, and even with my frustration with her, I do want her to succeed in her mission, guys, write to us and let us know. If you listen to this on audio podcast, number one, we need audio podcast reviews. Go to Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, all the places you listen to great podcasts. Please give us a review. And in your review, tell us why Juliette's great. If you're on YouTube, give us a like, a thumbs up, or if you're frustrated we don't like Juliette, we can understand, hit us a thumbs down, but please tell us why. So far in our Silo video series, we've had one video get 183 likes. Let's see if we can beat it this week. And as you give us that thumbs up like, I'm saying, let's see if we can do it. And once again, tell us why you love Juliette. You're right in your opinion. Hopefully we're trying to explain why we're like this in our opinion. We want you to join us with a subscribe if you like two obviously very silly people talking about great TV shows. Coming up in 2023, just the month of August, we're going to be doing 3 podcasts. We're going to be covering the 3rd season of Only Murders in the Building, the brand new Star Wars Ahsoka show, which is going to be exciting.
Love it. And
our buddy Double M Matt Murdock, he's going to have his podcast covering the Wheel of Time. Call me delusional, but later in 2023, I do believe finally the United States is going to get season 4 of the German show Babylon Berlin.
Jawohl, even though the hero died in that one.
I know. Plus, no spoilers, Catfish. They got to watch it if they want to. Plus, another Star Wars show, Skeleton Crew, is coming later this year. You guys have given us such great feedback. You're the lifeblood of this podcast.
Love it.
Tell us what you think and join us on these things.
Absolutely.
And Catfish, let's just get into it. Let's start a judicial debate.
Let's do it.
About Juliette. And this was my thought. I'm calling her a bull in a china shop.
Yeah.
We have listeners all around the world. I was looking earlier on the audio podcast. We have at least 48 countries downloading this. So if you're not familiar with that idiom, bull in a china shop, it means a person who breaks things or often makes mistakes or causes damage in situations that require careful thinking or behavior.
Ooh.
Juliette, she knows how powerful the judge is, or she thinks she knows how powerful the judge is. Earlier, the mayor was telling her, hey, the judge is going to kick me out of the mayorship unless we handle this wisely. And Juliette still kind of barged in and was trying to throw her weight around like, let me in, let me in. In this episode, she goes up, she's barging into the long-term care facility. Show me this patient. Look at, you see this? I'm the sheriff. And she's not wearing her badge. And I think in a lot of scenarios, that would be like a charming thing. Oh, whoops. Sorry. Here's my badge right here. But even that, it didn't read to me as a charming moment. It read to me as Juliette not thinking this through, not being prepared for a scenario that she wants. And so, once again, I love Juliette in this book. I always hold up the book Wool. She is a great character in this. I'm just having trouble with some of these actions that are happening in the show. Do you have any thoughts, Catfish?
Well, Bubba, it's funny because there are some shows that I've watched, and I've wondered about this myself before. And so I've thought about this before, and I thought there is a show that I stopped watching altogether because I hated the lead character so much, and it was Eastbound and Down. A comedy. And I found the character, actually, I'm far more dislikable than the lead character in this one.
Oh, correct.
For sure.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's just that thing where it's not that she's a bull in a china shop. I can't get just a hook into her at all. I find myself being completely unsympathetic to her. You know what would help is a little bit, and she doesn't have to be a comedian here, but a little bit of humor or, sarcasm or just something. Just, I know she's on this serious quest, but I keep saying we have had humor in the last 6 years in this country, even though we've gone through some dark times. So, I mean, you got to give me the humor. I gotta have something to key into her. She just seems completely unlikable to me. And it's not really the bull in the china shop. She also doesn't do smart things for the most part. Like you're talking about here. This is the bull in the china shop that's here. She's just not as sharp as she could be. And I think you're right. With some slight tweaks to the writing and the performance, this character you could be sympathetic to this character. You could be empathetic with this character. You could be rooting for her. You could be like, oh my God, someone's on her tail instead of now. And this is really only 3/4 of a joke where I'm like, get her, Sims. I mean, it's a problem. It's a problem for me.
Let me say that I'm not completely have no sympathy for her. After Billings, as I said earlier, rightfully calls her out for being a terrible sheriff, for turning off her radio when people are calling for help. She has that moment, that little moment where she has a little crack in her armor. Maybe for a lot of people, that's enough. That's strong. That's powerful to see that crack in the armor. For me, it was a fleeting moment, and it didn't carry me through the next 2 times when she's going to bust into somebody's office, really just and go off without a thoughtful plan.
And maybe it's because I'm not sympathetic to her, but her excuse, I don't know what I'm doing, and her answer is to not try at all and just steamroll everything, is not sufficient enough for me to feel sympathy for her at this point. I don't know where I missed being empathetic with this character where other people didn't. This is not objective. That's completely subjective.
Yeah, and if you love Juliette and you feel differently from us, please write in. We want to hear your feedback. We want to present your feedback to all our wonderful hundreds on audio podcast, hundreds on YouTube, hundreds everywhere of listeners, and give Juliette the fair shake that she deserves, because she is in a tough position. She is in such a dangerous position, and she is so smart sometimes, the way she figures out, things about the camera. It's just, there are a lot of times where she doesn't approach things with much thought, and that's tough.
Speaking of approaching things with thought, Bubba, before we go to the recap, we have to do our weekly check-in based on what you saw in the episode tonight. This episode. Do the people in the silo have it better than we do today? Bubba, what do you think?
Let me say that once again, it seems shocking that I always go this way. I think the people in the silo have a better world than we do today.
Tell me why, Bubba.
Well, based on only episode 7, the Flamekeepers, the reason why I think that is because when they go to the beach, there's like nobody there. It's not crowded. They can have a great time. There's maybe a dad and his kid out on the beach. Otherwise, they got the whole beach to themselves. I'm jealous. Better for the people in the silos than we have it today.
Bubba, you're completely right, but for the wrong reason. The reason why they have it better in the silo than we have it today is they've got all the free medication they need for their elderly people. Not only that, Bubba, it seems to be the good stuff.
Oh, man. You've been in a silo at least 140 years, and you still got enough aspirin, so it's no big deal. Yeah, Doc, go grab some aspirin.
I don't think it's aspirin. One of my questions later on was, how many floors of the silo are dedicated to growing poppies? Because they got the good opioids there, Bubba.
We are going crazy with our talk. We're going from serious to our normal silly state within seconds. Hopefully, listeners, you're down for this. Hey, if you don't want to give feedback on YouTube or write a review, you can also hit us up on our social media accounts at PHQ, the letter PHQ at the end, at PHQ on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.com/PHQ. Your feedback, I can't say it enough. It's the only reason why we're here. We want to enjoy this great show with you. And at times, I guess this great show that frustrates us, please write to us and let us know. Okay, Catfish, let's not hold the back anymore. Let's get into this recap. And I was just obviously making a joke about the beach. If you're Gloria and you're maybe, I guess, your early 60s, I'm trying to guess how old you would think she is, you have not been out of this silo. Your only picture of a beach is this picture in this, kid's vacation guide to Georgia. she does a great job of fantasizing about it. I thought it was incredible.
She does. I mean, the thing that she's missing, if she was really there, were all the rebel flags.
Okay. Hey, Gloria is obviously having an hallucination, a daydream of a vivid dream of this book that really ignited her imagination, her curiosity, as she loves to say. Mm-hmm. And she's talking to the nurse. She's like, I have to go back. Where's the water? And the nurse, is everybody in the silo evil, or is this nurse just doing what she's been told to do? Nurse is like, whoops, you missed a dose. Let me dope you up again. Wow.
You know, Bubba, later on, they claim that Gloria's really got a problem. I think her problem is she has not missed a dose in a really long time. And I'm just surprised, thinking about this logically, this is the first time we're aware that there are poppy fields in the silo.
Poppies, yeah, poppies, yeah. Let's get back to our cliffhanger from episode 6. Mm-hmm. Juliette, she's been looking at this evil relic that could get you killed, she's been told. She does make the notice, oh, wait a minute, the vase and the flowers, they're just laying on that table over there. They're not in the vase anymore. And everybody watching is like, to the O, this is trouble. And then we cut to this monitoring room. Catfish, I guess I have to say, for everybody who's been listening to all our podcasts, number one, I apologize. We're ridiculous. But number two, a couple of weeks ago, we asked, hey, what do you think's in the janitor's closet? And you had said something like, cable TV. And I was like, look at this. This is where you'd want to watch all your sporting events on all these TVs. It's incredible.
Right. 300 channels and nothing on.
Apparently the him, this was a big question we were asking about last week. Who's the him? The him B. Sims. It's Sims. This one of these watchers, apparently, according to the closed caption, their character's name is Diego. And they're like, Sims, what do we do? What's the plan? And Sims doesn't want to act too rashly yet. He's like, just follow her.
Although he does seem upset. But Bubba, as I was looking at Sims, considering what I like to call the double S.
Double S.
Yeah, silo situation. Would fake leather jackets have more prestige than real leather jackets? Because there's more cows in the silo than there is polyurethane. So there might be a flip in the silo. Everyone's like, is that fake leather? Oh, no, real?
So Juliette, once again, she recognizes the name Gloria from the Georgia travel book. It's in the files that Holston hid. She's hiding them in her oven. I think that's, I guess, an okay place to hide stuff. She's going to go get it. She's daydreaming at her desk in the morning. Billings comes in.
Oh, and she has some excellent and very extended small talk with him.
She tried. Hey, she tried.
Okay, that was it. She did try.
She did try. Let's give her some points. Juliette has a message from maintenance, and the maintenance is like, "Oh, sorry, we broke the vase in front of your mirror." If you're those guys in the watch room and you just saw her, looking back and noticing the flowers, why come up with this terrible cover story? Not good. Not good.
Well, so far she seems to be swallowing their story, but she's like, of course, she's smart. She's like, well, I'm in maintenance. If we down in maintenance, something breaks, we fix it. Right.
Yeah, that's where her focus is. But this is the second time Bernard actually told her once, and here's Billings say, hey, don't question maintenance. Now, speaking of Bernard, he is the acting mayor, right? She blows off a meeting with him. And poor Billings, who once again, I've been saying all these weeks, he came from Judicial. You would be suspicious of Billings. How can you be suspicious of Billings? He's acting like we would be acting. How is this person my boss? I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
No, I would say he's acting much nicer than I would be acting, because if I saw her acting so irrationally, there is no way, as the 4-time packed B spelling champion, that I would not turn her in.
Right. Well, once again, I don't think you can question Billings that he's been a good partner in this relationship.
Absolutely.
Now, Juliette, once again, I call her a bull in a china shop. She's just like, I'm going to go in and see this patient. And the long-term care woman there at the front desk is like, no, you can't. And Juliette, she doesn't care about anybody else. She doesn't care about protocol. She certainly doesn't care about the pack. She just starts attacking this woman at the desk. I want to take a short aside, listeners. This woman at the desk, in the credits, she's called long-term care nurse Amy, and she's played by an actress, Jacqueline Verses. Anyway, However you say this, I have just seen this actress in something else. I literally was watching a show and she was in something else. I've gone to her IMDb page and she, it's not listed on her IMDb page, whatever I just saw her in. Now, maybe I'm making a mistake and she was in an earlier episode of Silo and I'm missing that, but that's not on her IMDb page. We've got all these hundreds of listeners. If anybody can figure out what in the world I just saw this actress, Jacqueline.
So they have
versus
to guess what you saw that you can't
it's
remember.
Not on her IMDb page. Maybe it was a commercial. Maybe I saw her in a commercial, or maybe I did watch a Father Brown recently.
But what are you doing watching a commercial? It could be a Father Brown, sure. Why not?
I know, but that's not on her IMDb either.
Okay, fine.
Okay, look, let me say, forget it. Gloria, we've been told. Let's get back to the story. She has advanced vascular dementia.
No, she has a case of the good shit.
You mean the good drugs?
Yep.
And we're told, hey, Judge Meadows has an order that keeps Gloria on the ward. Juliette, she hears that and she's like, okay, then I'm just going to go bust into the judge's office and scream, where the hell's the judge? They are the power people, right?
Well,
would you approach it like this? Well, once again, we at the time, she thinks the judge is the most powerful person in the silo. Would you, listeners, would you, Catfish, would you ever, okay, this is a very important person that I need to get to my side. Is busting into their office without an appointment the best way to do it? Maybe you don't learn these social skills in the silo. Maybe
but it would be nice if she acknowledged to somebody that she was taking her life in her hands, that she was like, I don't have much time. I got to get this solved in the next 48 hours. So I'm going to do whatever I have to do, even if it threatens my life. Well,
maybe, if the show added that. That's a good point. Maybe if the show added that kind of ticking clock. What if she had said, okay, I'm going to work till Friday and then resign? Maybe that putting that ticking clock on herself would excuse this kind of not so smart behavior.
It's a good way not to get what you want, unless what you want is to get killed.
Right. Now, back at the sheriff's station, what we're seeing, what I would call an alt-world Holston and Allison, right? Holston and Allison, what did they want? What did they want? Number one, both of them. They wanted
a baby, but Allison was too much of a troublemaker.
Right. But I see this scene of Kathleen being a very supportive wife to her husband, Paul Billings. They both love this child so much. And I see this, and to my head, I'm thinking, is the show and the story trying to show us a version of what Holston and Allison could have been if they had been allowed to have a child? Like, would the act of having a child have gotten rid of Allison's quote-unquote pesky curiosity? Because all her curiosity would have been targeted at her child. And then
that's a good point. Another thing you would think is if she was a troublemaker, you would have gotten her out of IT.
Yeah. No, that's
the one thing that I like, it's interesting about this is, once again, people say I don't like flawed heroes. I do really like Billings, even though his major flaw is to not turn in. Juliette, because, oh man, he is putting not just his life, but his wife and child's life in danger.
Yeah.
This really, considering the only way that you can believe, based on what we've heard about this character, that he's going to go along with this is if he is a spy or has ulterior motives, which I don't think is true. But on the other hand,
you never know. The show could be pulling the rope.
It could be. But you think it has to be. Otherwise, why is he hitching his star to Juliette's wagon and not just like, okay, I don't know this person. Person is like really messing stuff up. They don't know the pact. I got a wife. I got a child. Like, he would not be betraying anybody to turn her in. Well, he doesn't owe her anything.
In oppressive society, like imagine you're behind the Iron Curtain after the Second World War. You know how terrible the oppressor is. Even somebody who is so much breaking the rules and risking your life, there is kind of a line in the sand of like, the oppressor is the worst. I'm not going to turn somebody in. It's just tough. You wouldn't think so, but it's tough. It's moments like what happens next that just drive me crazy about Juliette. And once again, we've talked about it so much, but it is obvious somebody is calling on the radio for help. That is not like hey, good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? Here on the fourth floor, everything's fine. No, you can hear the urgency in the voice, and she turns off the radio. And poor Billings has to go down and get in a freaking riot. This is crazy.
Juliette's completely covering her tracks because instead of picking up that call, she's going to barge into the judge's office, insult the secretary, and say, yeah, right. Yeah, I'm a good person like you're sick. Like you said after last week, Bubba. Yeah. Apple check for the judge.
Maybe. You don't really know. So where do I, like I said, in moments get on Juliette's side? Mm-hmm. Billings pulls her into her own office. To me, I'm like, Billings, read her the riot act. But he is still actually, I mean, his words are strong, but he's actually presenting it almost level-headed. And this is what he said. I wrote it verbatim. And I'm going to skip the full lines, but he starts off pretty much cutting her off. I'm not done. I lied for you. You have to come clean right now. I want a reason why you are neglecting your duties and dishonoring the badge. And he's right. And Juliette, once again, it's little moments like this. I wish there were more of them, but she does come clean. Why are a lot of viewers probably not feeling like we are? Juliette is out of her depth. She knows nothing about being a sheriff. This is very tough. She is very emotional, and she has a righteous cause. Someone she cared about was murdered. That's wrong. And so I just wish that we had more moments like this. I wish like a moment like this would kind of carry through to her next several moments, which for me, it doesn't.
Right. I mean,
and Billings even helps her. He's like, well, okay. Yeah. She comes clean. She's like, the person I care about was killed. The mayor was killed. Marnes was killed. And Billings, he's like, okay. You want to do these things. There's a way we can do it with the pact. And she finally says, thank you. And Billings, the square that he is, he's like, thank the pact.
I mean, all this time I'm thinking, save yourself, Billings. You have a wife and a kid and a family. Bubba, is this the third or fourth time the George case has been reopened or opened?
Right. They should have a sign on the wall. It's been 2 days since the George
case has been active, right?
Right. Okay, so Juliette, once again, she has this moment, and then she goes out and she sits at the table. And who comes up, Catfish?
It's Honeypot Copernicus.
Lucas, he comes up and sits beside her. We know so little about this guy other than he seems, kind of charmingly awkward, and he's interested in the stars. We find out he's a systems analysis person in IT, and he once got the excuse me, but lecture from Bernard that we saw Allison get.
But that's the center on everyone's bingo card at the silo.
Right. Lucas, they don't know the words for stars. He can't explain, hey, I saw a comet shoot across the sky. Mm-hmm. And then he goes in for a kiss. Catfish, it was a swing and a miss. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. It is awkward. I have a couple questions for you as somebody who doesn't know where this story's going.
Yeah.
Are you feeling the non-romance or romance of these two, Lucas and Juliette?
Well, Bubba, when you see sparks, you say love is in the air.
Yep.
So I say disinterest is in the air.
On whose part? Juliette's?
Juliette's.
Okay.
Juliette, she seems, I need to go back and watch their earlier episodes. I'm trying to think, was she actually really tender with George? I think there was a couple moments of that, right?
Well, I think it was just last week where I talked about how in the scenes we saw her with George, she spoke more. She did seem, happy, where in so much of this season, she always seems angry, which might be another tough thing to get into a protagonist with. But then, okay, you've called him the honeypot. Give us your vote. There are only 3 more episodes in season 1. I think they're going to have to make a decision one way or the other. Is Lucas what he appears to be on the outside? Kind of a charming, awkward guy who just likes stars and sees a cute lady working up, next to the cafeteria where he's going to see the stars? Or is he something else? What do you think?
Well, I think there's multiple things going on here because he says he works for IT.
Yeah.
But based on where and how often we see him, it seems like his actual job is as a busser in the cafeteria. But I think just looking at his
bus boys deserve love too.
At his blue jacket, I'm going to call it janitorial spy. Where else would you want to have a spy except for a guy hanging out in the cafeteria all day long listening to gossip?
If he was a spy, I guess I like where you're going.
Thank you.
I can't remember. Was he the first one to make an introduction, to form some connection with Juliette? Like that's what maybe a spy did?
He came
or
over.
Or did she do it?
Well, let's just say
she may have.
I can't remember, but he made himself available, right? Like,
that's true.
You know what I mean? He's around all the time. So at some point you go, what are you doing here?
No,
in that blue janitorial jacket.
He did, but I can't. I haven't rewatched those recent episodes recently. But there's a part of me that wonders if the first actual verbal connection was hers. Like, hey, I see you in here a lot. What are you doing? Listeners, do you want to draw stars with him? Or do you want to get away from this guy who's trying to kiss you? Ooh,
honeypot Copernicus.
Maybe one of the reasons why Juliette did have probably her longest interaction with Lucas is we see in the book, The Travel Guide to Georgia for Kids, there's a section about sea constellations and point them out.
Yeah.
Now, Catfish, I do have to say that if this book was printed in the year 2023, the state of Georgia doesn't have a space center, and it doesn't have a planetarium. It has
not yet, Bubba, because it has not become the #1 city in America yet.
Okay.
They're just waiting for you to leave.
But they did have, I guess, a bit of science there at the Fernbank Science Center, which we went to, which was kind of lame.
I mean, it says it's right in the title, Bubba.
Juliette, she still hasn't figured out the note about double the flowers, what it means.
Now, Bubba, I disagree with you on this, and maybe I'm wrong, but the way she was looking at it, maybe it was just suspicion. But at that point, I thought, that was one point in her favor for me. I thought, she knows there's something really wrong here.
I think you're right there. She just can't piece it together.
Okay. But at least she stopped and done some thinking.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, what I was going to say is we don't talk about this much, but because we're always so interested in enveloped in the story. There's moments of beauty too. You might live in an oppressive regime, but here she has this scene where she sees a man and their child, dropping these little things down the silo and watching these little ribbons roll out. And
Bubba.
You can't have beauty in a silo. You can't have love in an oppressive regime.
As I saw those ribbons slowly waft down the center of the silo, you know what I thought, Bubba?
What?
Time for a double C.
Double C.
Yeah, child cleaning.
You mean if a kid says, I want to go outside, what would they do?
No, the kid is throwing stuff down the center of the silo.
Oh, okay, all right.
Time to teach these children about the pact.
That's
the hard
only
way.
thing. That's the only thing we've seen go down the center of the silo that won't hurt somebody on the bottom. Like
that's the other thing, Bubba. Think about it. If you could get the silo window cleaned, but only have to build half of a outdoor suit, that's better, right?
Terrible. Okay, Bernard, let's get to that. Juliette's blown off his meeting. She finally goes as almost like a nod to Billings begging her to do it. She goes in. Bernard has received a threat. Juliette is once again quick on the draw, quick on the, action. And Bernard's like, listen, Sheriff, I know it's not in your inclination, but I need you to listen.
Yeah, ice cold.
Dang, ice cold it is.
This is not really a threat, right? I mean, what he's saying is he's manipulating her now. He's saying because he protected Juliette from Sims, the judge is now warning Bernard, don't get in that way. Don't do it again.
Well, it's a threat to him. He's not threatening Juliette. He's saying, and it's not even really a threat. It's almost like
right.
This is going to happen. You do this one more time, we can find a different mayor and we can take over IT as well. Yep.
Now, I don't know why Juliette didn't say there's no need to worry about the judge because she's on her last legs.
Now, we've had this debate for a while. Okay, yeah. Juliette, hey, it's the generators.
Get Bernard in. Yep.
Without power, the silo would fail. Bernard, you know what? Sure, that power's great, but it's our servers that decide where all that power goes. The servers manage how the crops get watered, how you transmit messages, how the air is circulated.
This is why we're striking. The damn AI is taking over.
And Bernard, who is, who started the series as, I like this guy, Paul Billings, for sheriff. I want to do it, Mayor Johns. You're going to get into trouble. For at least 2 weeks, maybe more, Bernard, at the very least, has been trying to protect her, Catfish. What do you think?
And Bubba, I called it this whole time. this is my first theory, and it seemed to be borne out. He is going to use Juliette as a power. Now there are two different power sources against the judge. The only question I have is, and this is maybe going ahead a little bit, does Bernard know that the judge isn't really the power? Again, this is something that doesn't get, we don't find out until later on in the episode.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that? Do you think Bernard knows who the real power is?
If he knows that the judge is possibly just a figurehead,
right?
Then he's manipulating Juliette, which doesn't necessarily mean he's completely evil. It might mean he's just a political player, like somebody, apologies every time we mention Game of Thrones, drink, but it could mean he's just a political player like Game of Thrones in King's Landing, where he's like, okay, I need Juliette to be on my side. This will manipulate her. Or he could be just in the dark as everybody. Later, you know, in the next couple of scenes, we're going to see that they have cameras in the judge's quarters, living quarters. Like this, nobody's above Sims's janitorial crew.
No, who's watching the Watchers, Bubba?
And maybe it works either way for Mayor Bernard, where if he knows or if he doesn't know, he still knows, okay, listen, I can't let anybody know that I know that the mayor's just, that the judge is just a figurehead. Right. And so if anybody's listening or watching this, they'll hear me say this to Juliette and think, okay, he doesn't realize who the real power is. Juliette and Bernard have a cute little moment, I thought, and also kind of a Juliette, watch yourself moment. Bernard, you sound like Billings. Juliette, he's not so bad. Bernard, he's your replacement. I mean,
I would say that's ice cold, but it doesn't seem to me they have this system.
Right.
No, she was a backup for somebody else. He's the backup for her. Like, this is all, people are going to be replaced. So to me, it's like, I didn't think that she saw that as a threat. I didn't.
Not as a threat, more like as a open your eyes. He's your replacement. You do what they don't want. You do something they don't like, you're out.
Well, yeah. Maybe I didn't take it as a threat either, just because it's like, I'm not as slow as her about how dangerous everything she's doing is.
Well, she is obviously slow on this. She thinks, once again, the judge is the most powerful person. And yet she goes to the judge's door. She has brought breakfast, but it's also bang, bang, bang. Let me in or I'll tell everybody you're drugging Gloria without her permission and keeping her prisoner. This, to me, is not smart. It's not smart. Now, maybe you see the judge's living quarters and she's got relics everywhere. Ooh. She's got a friggin' Etch-a-Sketch on display right as soon as you open the door.
I mean, that is she's got sweet, sweet digs.
But once again, Juliette, this is the most powerful person. And you immediately are accusing her of a crime. And the judge, I think the judge, I don't know if she's the big power or not, but she's saying things that are true. Like, you know, Juliette, you're not a good liar, Sheriff. Oh.
No, and then she goes on to say, and I wrote it down, and then she actually paraphrased what I wrote down, my joke after that, but you're a worse cop.
Now, Juliette, I guess you would say maybe this is what she thinks the judge wants to hear. Let me talk to this Gloria woman. I'll turn in my badge by the end of the week. It doesn't tempt the judge at all.
No, but then, and this is why I don't understand either, maybe the judge is in DGAF territory because, again, clearly sick and almost ready to be apple food. She basically admits to Juliette, somebody she doesn't know, that she's really a figurehead. And I don't know why she just doesn't say no and not let Juliette know the judge is powerless. Why can't she just say no?
Well, some people, Catfish.
Yeah.
Some people have said it's not that the judge is really sick. It's that the judge looks hungover and drunk, and the judge might be an alcoholic. And she's saying she has a cold, meaning I'm going to sit here and drink these vodka Bloody Marys until the cows come home.
Well, while I think that is amusing and the kind of humor that I would promote on this podcast and take ownership of, I don't actually believe that's true.
Yeah, I couldn't notice that. We've only seen the episode once, guys. Hasn't been out 12 hours. This is Friday morning we're recording this. The judge, once again, is trying to get this through to Juliette. You need to stop doing what you're doing. And again, this is a big eye opener for viewers, for everybody watching the show, not the watchers of that. Holy snap. Sims is the man behind the curtain. He's got a camera in the judge's home. You have theories. Everybody knows I'm the book reader, and I don't think I can have theories, but I do want to throw out a theory.
I love it.
That did pop in my head because Juliette is such on the razor's edge of danger.
Yeah.
Last week, I was joking like you were. Get another bushel of apples. The judge is going to pass away.
Yeah.
And if the judge was being poisoned, what I thought, wouldn't it be easy to frame Juliette for poisoning the judge? She did bring in that breakfast food that everybody saw her bring in.
Yes.
Billings will even say, the idea to bring in breakfast food wasn't hers. I told her to do it. They will kill. We've seen them kill. Well, we know they've killed at least 3 people. I mean, this is crazy. Juliette could be in deep, deep trouble. Once again, she does have these moments of vulnerability. They're just fleeting moments, but she does have them. We see her on the stairs. She doesn't have anywhere to go. She needs to find Gloria because Gloria is the next clue in this justice for George. And so what does she do? Gloria's being kept by medical people. Let me go to my dad. And her dad, he's got a new place.
With the same odd accent.
A new place, but this place is tiny. You go to recycling to get rid of stuff. You don't have a wife or 2 kids anymore. You live in a studio apartment. Juliette's, matter of fact, hey, Dad, I haven't seen you in forever. Will you help me break somebody out of long-term care? Dr. Nichols, he's like, that could be dangerous. And she just pretty much rips him a new one. Like, F you moron. I knew you wouldn't come through. This is, once again, the bull of the china shop. It's like, it's my way or the highway.
Bubba, she's like, do you want the stick or do you want the stick?
There are no carrots in the silo.
No carrots. Juliette, no carrots. No carrots in the silo, Bubba. So you can't use that euphemism. Nobody knows what carrot means.
No. Dr. Nichols, your kid guilts you, you do it. He gets Gloria out. He brings her into the nursery where all the babies are, where Juliette is. Now, what drove me crazy in this scene is, hey, we're doing this thing that obviously we're not supposed to do. Let's do it in front of this huge open window. Anybody want to see us doing this thing we're not supposed to do? Let's go in front of this open window. Wow. And so poor Gloria is under heavy sedation. What does Juliette do? She starts badgering her dad.
No, let's wait and relax until she's. Oh no, you're right. She starts saying, "Shoot her up with whatever can get her to talk for however long I need her to talk."
And poor Gloria being set, under sedation against your will. But then, being given these other drugs, the poor woman has a seizure. Holy smokes.
And then Juliette has a flashback to her brother having a seizure.
Back in the janitor's closet, Sims is going to his team. And we see him how do you get there? You enter in the janitor's closet. You press this secret button that gets you into a stairwell. At the bottom of a stairwell, you punch in this code. I mean, this is pretty damn top secret. He gets in there, and his team, who has this incredibly high tech that we don't see anybody else have, but it's also, they're in a silo. I guess they have limited resources. Sorry, boss, we've been repurposing cameras. We don't have cameras everywhere anymore.
Oh, no, I know. And let me say this.
Yeah.
Sims, although this character expresses a wide range of emotions to very reserved, to stern, to very angry, gets in his anger mode here. And even though he's about to flip his lid, he's still the flawed hero we deserve in the silo.
The dad, back in the maternity ward, the dad is trying to be he's trying to be a dad. He's like, that badge looks good on you, honey.
Oh, is that what I thought he was flirting with her?
This isn't Game of Thrones. Stop it. He goes to get some coffee. Naturally, that's when Gloria begins to snap out of it. Whoa. But she also snaps out of it by saying, "You're my doctor. You're my fertility doctor. He's working for them." Oh, my God.
And Juliette says to her dad, who's done everything she's asked, "You're upsetting her."
Wow.
I'm
wow.
Like, Juliette, I mean, just once. Just pull back on the throttle a little bit.
Never. Poor Gloria, she doesn't trust anybody.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that gets her to snap out of it is the travel book. Gloria, she sees it.
Yeah.
She's ecstatic. She's kind of snapping back to her old self. She asks Juliette, have you heard of the Flamekeepers? Juliette, no. Gloria, that's because they erased us. Ooh, Juliette, who did? Gloria, the silo. Ever since the rebellion. That's when they put something in the water so memories would fade. They want to erase the past and anyone who tried to preserve it. Whoa.
I'm all in on something weird going on in the silo. There clearly is something going. But when you start listening to someone who says they put something in the water, that's when you know maybe it's time to like step back and assess things a little bit.
This is a sci-fi world.
They have fluoride in the silo.
This is a oppressive futuristic world. Who's to say they didn't put something in the water to make everybody forget?
They're putting poppy in the water.
The Flamekeepers, according to Gloria, were the people who fought back, who tried to keep relics and things like the book to keep the memories alive.
The judge is a Flamekeeper?
Maybe in some odd way, maybe she is.
All right. Okay.
Gloria is spelling out exactly what happened to her. And of course, we learned that's exactly what happened to Allison. They said they were taking out my birth control, but it was a lie. And Gloria knows what's going on. She goes like, they may be keeping me drugged, but I can escape into these memories, this picture of the beach. This is hardcore it. Juliette, once again, there are moments, for me at least, that Juliette comes through. By letting Gloria hold that baby, you can tell she's like made Gloria's day, her month, her year. This is great.
And then, Bubba, we have got so many mysteries that haven't been solved yet. But now is the perfect time to add another mystery. So here we go. Gloria knew Juliette's mom. Yep. Juliette's mom helped the Flamekeepers. She was building a microscope for them.
Yep.
And Bubba, you had a question.
We know you're not supposed to do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was build anything with magnification.
Mm-hmm.
Did Sims's crew, and he's probably too young to have murdered somebody 20 years ago, I guess. Is it possible that whoever, Sims replaced kill Juliette's mom? Dang.
I'm going to give you a spoiler right here.
Okay.
That's how young Sims made his bones. Killing Juliette's mom, #flawed hero.
Let's get to something once again I loved in this episode. Mm-hmm. Juliette's dad, Dr. Nichols, what a piece of work. When he brought him into maternity, he has this one line, it kind of sneaks by. He goes, oh, they can't hear us in here. They can't listen to us in here. How do you know that, Dr. Nichols? What is going on? Juliette busts her dad. She's like, hey, are you part of this big lie about birth control? And he's like, I didn't have a choice. I did question it, but, I thought I was doing the right thing. Oh, my goodness.
And he tells her there are consequences to asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, doctor, from your lips to Sim's ears.
From the outside, Dr. Nichols, what he did is terrible. You're a doctor. The oppressive regime, the behind the Iron Curtain right after World War II, they come to you as a doctor and say, don't let this woman conceive a child. It's for the good of the, it's good for the good of the realm, the good of the country. He's got a really good excuse. It depends on whether you believe his excuse, whether he believed his excuse, whether he made up his excuse. Right.
You are dealing with a very limited group of people and limited resources. And so if there are genetic anomalies that you want to keep out of the silo, that does make sense. I mean, you're not neutering someone, you're just not allowing them to have children. I mean, you're essentially neutering them, but not
this one to me is a bit like you're like Billings, you can just turn in Juliette and protect your family. You can't work with the oppressive regime. I think this is a sin that the dad almost can't recover from.
Okay, but is it a sin worse than his accent?
Terrible. Okay, let's get to this big shocking end.
Let's do it.
To get Gloria back in her room, Juliette had to take her there, get caught on the cameras. Oh my goodness. Sims, he's had enough. Right. He's calling out the troops, man, the attack troops. Juliette's there. Gloria notices, oh, my flowers are gone. Juliette, hey, I want her to be smart. She puts 2 and 2 together. It's the final piece. These cameras are in the mirrors. She takes a sheet and covers the mirror because Holston had been there and messed with the vent. We've got the hard drive. Holy smokes.
And once again, Juliette does things in the most subtle way possible. And so that's when Sims is like, send in the jackboots, except the jackboots have a cool nickname. They're the Oakland Raiders.
The Judicial Raiders.
Okay, sure. Is that's where they moved to now? Judicial? I can't keep up.
Gloria tells Juliette, you're the last Flamekeeper now.
Oh.
Juliette, did her mother kill herself? Did the evil people that Sims is a part of kill her?
Wow.
All sorts of questions. Juliette's gone. Let me ask you something. If there's any sort of law in this silo, what are they going to do? They're quote unquote going to bust Juliette with relics of the hard drive and the book. But how are they going to say, we knew you had the hard drive and the book? Gloria can't testify against you. Are they just going to get somebody to lie and say it? Like, why can't Juliette just show up at work tomorrow? Which I don't think she can. I think she's got to run and hide, for God's sake.
Oh, yeah. You know what she's going to have to do?
What?
She's going to have to go to the end of that rope and keep going.
Actually, that would be a great place to hide. They would never think to look there.
Absolutely.
Oh, my God. Really tough.
Although they did check out his place, right? So they'd know where the entrance to that is. They just may not be able to find it.
Maybe, yeah. That's.
I thought they had investigated his, not just his place, but his hidden place, the place he took her.
Oh, I didn't notice that. That if the
they said something, and I felt like they were something that they found that was in that place.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I thought that's what. It wasn't that we saw them do it. It was something when somebody said we found this that I thought they had searched there. Listen, I could be wrong. That was just my interpretation.
Catfish, you are so tough on this episode and on our main protagonist. But if you had the ability to hit next episode, would you have hit next episode?
Absolutely. Of course I would. Of course I would.
Yeah, I would.
I would say only 3 more. I'm in it to win it at this point.
Listeners, we've broken down the episode. What did we miss? What did you want us to talk about? Give us a comment. You can email us, hello@doublepmedia.com. We want to hear from you. Catfish, what's next on the Judicial Debate?
All right. Well, this is what I thought of. Now, look, we had Allison herself said she wanted to go out for a cleaning.
She did.
It's not that she had been sent out, but they didn't allow her to have kids. So my question was, who is more of a danger? Who was actually more of a danger to the silo? Allison, when she was back there saying, "Oh, I found out," or Juliette now? Who do you think is more of a danger to the silo?
Well, I would say in their natural state, Allison was more of a danger. Juliette, if she hadn't had this relationship with this specific person, George, I think she would have spent her whole life, hey, I've got to keep this generator running. That's what keeps everybody alive.
Okay, so my question is Juliette now, where we see her now?
Well, I think that's different. In other words, I think now Juliette is a danger to the stability of the silo. Wait, versus Allison when she said, "I want to go out." If Allison says, "I want to go out," there's nothing you can do. That's the pact. You got to go out. So when is Allison compared to Juliette now?
Oh, I would say Allison after she found out that her birth control actually hadn't been taken out.
Oh boy, that is a tough call. Allison had physical proof because she dug that thing out of her. Remember how brutal and powerful that moment was? I guess Juliette, because Allison knows that, hey, they're trying to not allow me to conceive and have a child. Juliette knows there's a powerful force in here that seemingly was behind at least 3 murders and is drugging somebody else and keeping them hostage in the long-term care facility. So I would say more a danger to the people, the evil villains. I think Juliette is more of a danger. How about you?
Well, I was going to say Allison because she had a lot more people on her side. She had a trusted sheriff on her side.
Yeah.
She had friends. She wasn't a loner in this community the way Juliette is. All right, Bubba, it's time for the double D's, double Q's.
I don't even want to ask the question. Just
daringly dumb catfish questions.
Oh, okay. All right.
Here we go, Bubba. We see a lot of flowers in this episode, fresh flowers in this episode of the silo.
Okay, sure.
How many floors of the silo are dedicated to growing flowers? You can include both hallucinogenic and non-hallucinogenic flowers.
Well, then I'm going to say 50 of the 100. I mean, you got to have a biodiverse area, so flowers are part of it. They certainly help all the bugs that are needed for life. You have Amsterdam. You have
at least 10. I would say more regular flowers than other flowers. It looked like there weren't a lot of people in that opium. This might just be called, they might call the place where they grow the poppies Gloria's garden. It might just be Gloria.
Good for
all right,
Gloria.
Bubba, here's another ridiculous one, and then we have two serious ones.
Okay.
How did Juliette cause her brother seizures?
Well, she busted into his room and demanded that he answer her questions immediately without a meeting.
Love it. All right, here's a couple serious ones.
All right,
I know
sure.
it's not going to sound serious, but it is.
Okay.
So Gloria was a waste of good drugs and a danger to the Silo society. Why didn't they just bump her off?
You mean Sims's crew? They can bump off a mayor. They can bump off a deputy.
It doesn't even need to look that difficult. It's like you're giving her drugs. Just give her twice as much or whatever, and she's gone. Is there any reason why they want to keep around for anything that's worth the danger of what she might say?
What the mayor was doing by appointing people who didn't have judicial sign-off, and I guess we should really say Sims's sign-off as sheriff, that can cause instability in the silo, according to Sims. So maybe that is more dangerous. So you kill the mayor, where Gloria is just a crazy old lady who, yes, she's saying terrible things. If she is lucid, she's going to say terrible things. Mm-hmm. But people may already assume that she's kind of a kooky lady and says crazy things. I mean, Holston did, right? And so maybe it's like, what's the point?
The trade-off is worth it. Yeah.
I mean, they have killed, once again, that we know of, at least 3, because they killed George, they killed the mayor, they killed Deputy Marnes.
Well, and Gloria's saying they got rid of all the rest of the flamethrowers.
Right, but they kind of just let them die off, right?
I don't know. All right, so if you don't know the answer to that one, do you have a good answer to this one?
Let's hear it.
Why does janitorial use the office of judge as a front?
Well, I am not a student of history. I'm not I don't know enough about the Soviet Union.
Silo history.
Or the Nazi Germany history, or all the terrible oppressive regimes in the world. But the veneer of justice, the veneer of rights, does keep people calm. If that's their big thing, is they want a stable silo.
Okay.
Maybe that's why you do it. What do you think?
Well, I'm just going to assume that at one point the judge was in power.
Oh, okay.
And maybe had this janitorial as sort of their enforcers, and then at some point the judges were co-opted by the enforcers because of personal knowledge they have, and then they just ended up taking over the office.
I think that's a great idea. That would naturally almost happen, right? You get the judge gives people powers to enact what they want. The judges, as you go 140 years, 150 years, whatever, kind of die off.
Yeah, we know where the bodies are buried. All right, Bubba, let's get into we got some episode 7 feedback. That's on this very episode.
It's from our buddy Link Hogthrob. Love that handle on Twitter, which is at Matt's Test Lab 1.
Might be my favorite episode thus far, seeing the judge and mayor vulnerable to a higher authority. But is that authority Sims alone? To what end? The truth is out there.
The truth is out there.
In here.
Wonderful question that Link Hogthrob writes, Catfish. Is the authority Sims alone, or is there like a council of authority or something that we haven't seen yet? Or is Sims just it? Sims?
I assume he is the head of janitorial, and as I said, janitorial has taken over and co-opted the judge.
We got this great bit of feedback, a bunch of general feedback, and here's some from a user with the handle Yvette G, who wrote, "You two guys are so funny," around the 38-minute mark, and she loved our reenactment of Patrick Kennedy's diss to Billings Who the F are you? She loved our reenactment of that. So we may have to do more reenactments.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right. And Dave says Juliette being a bit of a jerk makes a lot of sense.
Oh.
If you have an a-hole parent that you do everything you can to get away from, you realize later in life that you have unknowingly become just as much of an a-hole. Dave says,
Dave is right.
Love every Double podcast I've checked out. Can't wait for season 2 of smash hit The Rook.
Look what I brought out, Catfish. I'm always holding up the book Wool. Here's the Rook just for you.
Oh,
Catfish,
Dave.
You love this book. What did you think of the TV adaptation of this book, Catfish?
Well, what a disappointment. But then again, so was the second book of The Rook. So there you go. That's probably why there's no third, or if there is, I haven't checked it out. Dr. William A. Tarr, Esquire, says, just bought the Wool book on Audible for 1 New Republic credit. They would not take Imperial credits.
Oh.
I did not watch book spoilers, so I watch your shows after I listen on my way home from work. Unlike Future Man, yes, this show grows on you like a fungal infection. I'm watching episode 6 now, slow but steady building up how the world works and those lights. Gave first episode 9 wipes to the video camera. Maybe if Bubba does not like this show, I need to be sent outside for some podcaster cleaning. Yes, from a very long time, Double L.
Wait, Double L?
Loyal listener from the audio podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. William A. Tarr. Recently, I've been more positive than Catfish. At times, we kind of flip-flop on who's more positive on this show. At the beginning, it was definitely Catfish. Those first 2 to 3 episodes, Catfish was way ahead of me. Daniel gave us the feedback about on our YouTube channel. He said, get your faces off the screen so we can see what's happening on the show. Okay.
Well, wait a second. You're supposed to watch the show first, and then these are just still pictures. It's not like we're talking over the show, which would be a brilliant idea, Bubba. I wonder if someone could come up with an app for us to do that.
Let me say that if you've seen our faces on YouTube, I think this Daniel's right. We should, nobody wants to see our faces. That's for sure.
Yeah, we're not on YouTube because we're good looking.
No, not at all.
All right, Langat Kibet, I hope I'm saying that right, said, I am sorry I'm in East Africa. What's with the obsession with the accent of the lead actress, Juliette? Are we all supposed to have an American accent? I have seen and heard complaints about her accent in other forums too. Look, if she could do her regular accent, it would stand out probably because you're like, how does she talk like that? Unless like, when they did Wonder Woman, they got all the women back in Wonder Woman's land to have someone with the same accent as the lead actress. So maybe if they had all accents in the down, that would be fine, or East or her accent. But if you're supposed to be an American and your accent is weird, it's going to stick out if you're American.
Right.
If you're not American, when Americans do British accents, I don't know. I'm like, that sounds good to me. So, but I'm sure people in England are like, this is a horrible accent just because they know.
It's just noticeable. I don't think it really affects my rating at all, though. Does it affect your rating for when we do the rating of the episode, if an accent is good or bad? It doesn't mind, to be completely honest.
No, and to be honest, her accent is pretty good for the most part.
Oh, yeah.
It's her father's accent that is like,
Dr.
All right,
Nichols.
Get Mike says, I can't stand this Sims guy. Hello, flawed hero. The whole dad speech was terribly acted. Just felt like he was reading the entire thing off a prompt. I do not expect an OF joke to come out of Bubba's mouth. Thanks for the shout out, guys.
Let me say that our podcast, once again, we want you to join us on all our podcasts. It's really like you're the third friend. It's 3 friends sitting in a circle, making jokes, talking seriously, being silly about these interesting shows. And we definitely like people like you and like Get Mike to join us on these great things. Now we have this person, I believe it's Denise, who gave us the feedback that says the Pez dispenser in Silo connects the universes of Seinfeld and Silo.
Whoa. Whoa.
Pretty good, huh? What if Kramer suddenly came out one of the doors? Whoa.
First of all, Kramer would be less of a bull in the china shop than Juliette. But can you imagine the Kramer bursting into the judge's office?
Let me say we also got some great spoiler feedback from this person that we'll get to in our book talk section. We asked last week, we kept asking, who is the him that the watchers are waking up I guess the answer is Sims, but somebody who goes by the handle Trouble Follows wrote that they had to wake up the person, meaning the person works during the day. This person believed that Bernard, the IT guy, was the him. Well, Trouble Follows, I guess based on this episode, they just did a head fake on you, and it's Sims.
What Trouble's like, whoa, yeah, heck yeah. All right, Bubba, we had some thoughts on episode 6, too.
Yep.
As I mentioned a little bit earlier, Pyotr Kropotkin, and if I said that wrong again, I apologize, said, you guys are ridiculously negative. The books are good, as is the show. Hey, no one said the books were bad. Thankfully, they are different, as telling the same exact story would be boring for those of us who read the book. The significant plots are still intact, so the changes make it enjoyable. Instead of appreciating the story they are telling, you're constantly complaining that it's different from the book or there's no classic hero who is all good and perfect. I'm glad they're taking the route that no one is an ideal hero. People are complicated with good and bad aspects of their actions, personalities, etc. Characters should have those aspects too.
Now, this is the type of feedback we like. This is somebody who has a completely different take.
Yeah.
And they argue that point very well. I can only speak for myself on your one note where you said, if you just told the exact same story from the book, it would be boring to watch for viewers. I generally don't agree with that statement. I thought to myself of Gone Girl. Gone Girl is a great book. It is very faithfully, ridiculously faithfully adapted for film by David Fincher. And I could be wrong, but I don't remember a single person saying, oh boy, Gone Girl, the movie is real boring because it's just like the book.
You know, though,
I don't see that.
I'm going to take his side on this.
Okay.
But what I would agree with him on, and I don't know whether he's trying to get at this, or I'm just making it up. But for him, what's happening is he's enjoying the same story from two different viewpoints.
Oh, yeah.
So
I think
he's
that
not
can
like
be true
seeing
too.
everything that he saw before. So it's not just like a regurgitation of the book. So I could see how you would like that. For me, I can never do that. I would be constantly comparing, which is one reason why I didn't read it again, so that I can just enjoy or try to enjoy what's happening.
We have this feedback from David, who wrote of our podcast. He said, you guys are the sane corner for me once a week. Well, if you think we're sane, David, that's saying a lot.
I'm so sorry, David. I can't imagine what the rest of your week is like if this represents sanity. All right. Pest says, can't always agree with y'all, but love listening to your review. Regina may have set Jules up.
Oh.
Pep, we don't agree with each other either, so we're just glad that you're listening and that you gave us feedback.
And I would love if Regina set up Jules. I think that would be a wonderful twist to the story. A listener who I love getting feedback on these Silo podcasts, 1D Forever, wrote, I enjoyed episode 6. I'm hopeful that the changes they've made to the book turn out to reach a great conclusion. The only issue I have is they should have named it not Silo, but The George Show. And then 1D Forever wrote, Juliette, don't bring relics home. Great podcast. Go Dogs. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, 1D Forever.
Boy, that is really got to bring that down. That is just, as Tim's Retro Corner says, those monitors at the end of the episode were much better tech than the retro 80s screens throughout the rest of Silo. But then he said, so is the big view screen in the cafeteria. I wonder who maintains and fixes them. Now we know. And who complains to maintenance when the power goes off?
Uh-oh.
I wouldn't want to get complained at by Sims. By the way, I think it's understandable that they wouldn't recognize a Pez dispenser. We seem to forget stuff very quickly when we're not exposed to it. Consider how today's kids already don't know what a floppy disk is. Sorry, 3D printed save icon is.
Tim is another one. Always great feedback.
I'm going to read this. Yggdrasil42. Go ahead. I just needed to read the his name. Her name.
I wanted to try it because I always fail. Yggdrasil42 wrote, well, the him is probably not the Nightman. This is a good point. There's no guaranteeing that the him is the Nightman because they would have to wake him up, and he's well known as the Nightman who comes at night. Love it. These listeners, you guys are always the best. Just skip to the feedback section. It's great.
That's
Zion
excellent.
wrote on about Paul Billings. They wrote, I think people forget one thing. Just because someone has nice moments with their own kids doesn't mean they're a good person. There are plenty of mass murderers who've had families, and you've thought, how is their father nice and loving and did this? Ooh, Zion is setting the stage for Paul Billings having a real heel turn here, Catfish. Love it.
Well, yeah, but you know who's not going to have a heel turn, but is also nice to their kids? Flawed hero Sims.
Oh, brother.
Kiki Fries says, lots of holes in the show if Judicial owns those cameras. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I can't wait to hear more.
Okay.
I'm thinking IT owns them as part of spreading the power theme you guys have been talking about. If IT decides to share info, then Judicial might get a tip. But if Judicial owns them, then game over. It's Big Brother and too much power in one organization. All sorts of things break down, as there would likely be two casts at that point. Judicial and everyone else, masters and slaves. I'm hoping it's either Bernard's IT or a new Friends of the Silo org, not yet discussed. I think this is a really good point here, Bubba. It's funny, I was thinking we were talking near the end of the episode. Okay, so if Judicial's got all the power, why did they let anybody else become sheriff?
This is a great question. Great question and great feedback. Once again, just skip to the feedback section. It's perfect. Jacob2046 wrote, thanks for reading my comment in the video. I'm a fan of your reviews for Silo, and I agree with your thoughts. I'm still not sold on the show after episode 6. Jacob is still confused after watching the show. Jacob's never read the books. He knows something is off. He said, I did know about the audio, the bugs for listening and the video cameras after the flowers in front of the mirror and how people know things that they couldn't possibly know. Does anyone know how the old sheriff Holston knew about the cameras and knew to double the flowers in front of the mirror? How did he know that? Jacob continues, I liked the Sims' room with all the relics as well as the camera monitoring room. I think Lucas and Juliette's dad, those are two characters who aren't who they seem to be. Great stuff, Jacob.
I love it. We know Copernicus, the honeypot, is definitely not. And we learned something about her dad today that, Bubba thinks that disqualifies him from Father of the Year. I don't know, compared to Sims?
We haven't seen Sims' kids in a while. Who knows if they're still alive or if they if they followed Doug Trumbull over the edge.
He has to be woken up in the day. He has to be woken up.
Wake him up
so he can tuck his kids in and then become the night man.
The night man. Guys, we're going to go to Book Talk. This week Book Talk is going to have some version of spoiler, either light spoiler or heavy spoiler the whole way through.
People want the heavy spoilers, Bubba.
So if you don't want to listen to any spoilers, this is your chance to leave. We want to thank you so much for listening to the podcast. We want to thank you so much for giving us your feedback. Once again, we're going to try to break a record for the number of likes we have on a video. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the likes. If you're listening to audio podcast, please give us a written review, star review. It always helps. The next podcast we're going to be doing is about episode 8, entitled Hannah, which, remember, is the name of Juliette's mom. The description is, new information causes Juliette to see her family's past differently. Ooh. And she finally gains access to the silo's biggest secrets. Heck yeah, we are coming into the home stretch. I love it.
Oh, man, and maybe, we found something bad about Juliette's dad tonight, but he may be covered in more shame by the end of next week's episode, which we will talk to you next week on The Cleaning.